How do you actually ruin your mental health as a researcher, as a PhD, as a scholar? That is a super easy thing to do. I want to talk about that today, and I'm going to give you some solutions in how I actually deal with this. And the reason why it's easy to ruin your mental health is because you just behave like an ideal researcher, as an ideal scholar, as an ideal academic, where you are playing the game in terms of what it means to be a good scholar, in the sense that the expectation is that you're going to work 24/7. As soon as you wake up in the morning, you start working, and as soon as you go to bed, that's the only time that you actually stop working. And then you do that for 365 days a year. And you do that repeatedly. And now, why is that? That's not necessarily problematic if you're energized and it feels good. But often there's all these expectations that are put on you as a scholar, as a researcher, where no matter how much work that you put in, it's never enough. You're never good enough because you're compared in a very open way, where everybody else sees where you are, and then you're ranked compared to everybody else. And because you're ranked compared to everybody else, you're never going to get to number one. And in your field, you might become number one, but there's another field, there's a bigger market, there's more people out there that you have to compare yourself to. And it's this never-ending game where you're comparing and you're thinking in your head that I'm never good enough, that drives you to work more and more and to feel more and more insecure and more problematic as you do that. And that's an easy trap to get into, because that's essentially the scientific effort. That's what it means to be a scientist, is to get into this effort where there is a production treadmill, and the only thing that matters is another publication, another research grant, and getting something that everybody else sees, your prestige. Now, how do I deal with this? I'm going to tell you straight up front that I don't deal with it very well. I struggle with it, probably just like you, that, you know what, I really don't know how to actually deal with this other than these couple of simple things that I do. I say, I'm okay. I say, deep down inside, what does it mean to be me? And when I do that, I all of a sudden start putting up some boundaries and barriers of what it means to be me and what it means to live a healthy life within this framework. This is not unlike what you'd expect in something like Wall Street, for example, or any other kind of competitive environment where everybody is competing against each other. There's actually not a lot of environments like that, but the expectation is to be constantly working more and working not necessarily harder, because I don't know how to work harder, but working more efficiently. All of the discussion is about productivity, effectiveness, and what it means to be a good scholar. All of that stuff means that by default, if you do not live up to what it means to be a good scholar, or you are not productive, then you're no good. And so that's where you have to define yourself, and you say, I'm okay with who I am. I don't necessarily need all of that prestige. I don't need to be a good scholar, and you can call me all you want. I have to be okay with this at this moment. Now, there was something that was told to me when I was a PhD student that I don't think I really quite understood. And somebody had told me that you just have to develop a thick skin. And I think what that meant was that you actually have to develop your identity. And no matter what is thrown at you, and no matter how many rejections that you get, and how many times that somebody says that you are not good enough, that you simply just say, okay, I'm okay. with being me. And I'm going to take a step forward with being me. And no matter what happens, you have to also be willing to say, who cares? So I'm not saying that none of what you do is not important. I'm not saying that not to work hard. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying that you shouldn't care about your work. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, would you be okay if you found a different career or things didn't work out for you? And I'm going to tell you this right now. Almost everybody, they would be okay. And I always think about, what is the worst case scenario? I fail at this thing, and then I have to go take a job in a factory, at a gas station, at a grocery store, whatever it is. I've done all of those things, and I'm okay when I do those things. And I feel perfectly fine inside when I do those things. And in fact, I get a lot of rewards when I do those things. So as long as I frame the conversation about who cares, does this matter? And most of the time, no. It's because I'm caring too much is why I actually start getting mental health concerns. Then I start feeling like I'm not good enough. That's when I start falling apart. So for you, what I would suggest and think about is just keep taking steps forward and detaching. Give the world the middle finger. I think that's the best thing that I've ever learned to do, is just give the world the middle finger and be okay with just saying, I'm good enough at this moment. And if it doesn't work out, so be it. Just take those steps forward every day and do the things that you need to do. I'm not saying don't do the work. You're going to do the work no matter what. But you got to say, I'm good enough inside. I am perfectly fine with who I am. And no matter what happens to me, whether I get kicked out, whether I have to be deported or whatever, because I'm actually in a foreign country, whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. And I'm going to take those steps forward. I'm going to have that confidence, that quiet confidence that nobody is going to take away from me. I think if you have that attitude where you're just almost cavalier with it all, but you're really focused and important with it, or you think it's important, but at the same time, you don't think it's important, I think you can deal with it. I think you could take a step back, go for a beautiful walk like this, look at this, and just enjoy it. Enjoy it every single day, as much as you can, and practice that enjoyment, practice that smiling through it, practice saying, I'm going to be okay today. If you do those things, man, you can get through a lot. You're not going to ruin your mental health.